Great. Well, hello everyone. For anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Josh, he, him, and I am the volunteer manager here at the Book Bank. So I'm showing you right now the first step in our process of accepting book donations all the way until they go through the warehouse and eventually make it out to kids in the community. This first step is called intake, and essentially it's a little quick processing section so that we can vet books before we pass them on to book cleaners. Essentially, we never want to give book cleaners books that we can't use or that aren't restorable. So this is just that first checkpoint where we kind of quickly sort through the books to make sure they can actually be used by us. So to give you some examples, I have some books over here that have come from a donation. So books can either be accepted or rejected for a couple reasons. The first thing I want to talk about is always when we sort through books, we want to make sure that they are actually a book. Believe it or not, more often than you would expect, we get things that are not books at all, like these flashcards, for example. But that could be anything like board games or other like card games that people, like well-meaningly donate thinking that kids can use, but just don't work for our programs. And we just pull those out and send them somewhere else. Another reason that we could pull books would be for quality reasons. So for example, this book, maybe if we zoom in a little bit closer, you can see that there are some library stickers on it that are Sharpied out, a lot of tape on it over here, and just overall you can see a lot of damage to the spine and cover of the book itself, like it's not in the greatest condition. This is what we would say is beyond the point that we're able to restore a book. There's just not much we can do for it. So this would be something else that we would pull out for quality reasons. And then the last main reason that we would pull a book that we can't use would be for content reasons. Content can be a lot of things. Maybe it's not a book for kids, like it's an adult book, or the content itself just isn't something that we consider appropriate for our community that we want to distribute. So for example, we regularly pull books out where maybe the representation is outdated or contains some harmful stereotypes. Classic example of this is books written about Native Indigenous populations, specifically ones that usually are not own voice. They don't tend to be accurate representation. Like this one, for example, one of our volunteers left a note on it saying that this book, it's not own voice and it tends to kind of group together different distinct Indigenous populations, which isn't obviously accurate. So we would also pull this aside. But once we check that a book doesn't have anything that would mean we can't take it, then we can look at the book and just kind of determine where it would go in our sorting process. So we kind of loosely sort books in this stage just based on the type of book, meaning like the format of the book and the grade level. So for example, we have categories including board books, early reader books, pre-K picture books, chapter books, older picture books. And once the books get sorted into those categories, we know that we can use them. Then they're going to get sent off to the book cleaners, which is what Brittany's going to show you next.
And before we do a book cleaning demonstration, I'm just going to walk you around our Story Like Mine section as well and give you just kind of a pan of the warehouse in general. This is the book cleaning space where Brittany, Josh, and River host our book cleaning groups. And then surrounding our book cleaning tables is where we hold our inclusive mirror window titles, which we call Story Like Mine. So these are all of the new books that we purchase, since we only receive about 5 to 7% of donations annually that we would consider inclusive. So with main characters that are not white or in any other marginalized community. And then we kind of sort them by some of their categories. So for instance, this label here is for our disability representation. And then you can move over to our Native representation, our LGBTQIA plus representation, and more. So whenever you're fundraising for Story Like Mine, this is the kind of area where all those books that we're fundraising for land. And then end up in our pre-K bundles that go out to the community. And then we will head over to Brittany to talk about book cleaning.
Hi, yeah. So at the Book Bank, we really pride ourselves over the quality of the books. So we really want to make sure that each book that a kid gets feel as new as possible to them. So that's where we have volunteers go through and spruce up the books that we have that are donated. So for example, there's lots of little easy tricks you can do to restore a book. Something like Sharpie on the outside, you can simply just erase with a rubber eraser. We have lots of fun book plates that we can use for any kind of inscriptions that pop up. So we can just grab one of these, place it over, or do other methods as well. Even things like wear and tear, as you see on this board book. We can go through and just have a volunteer kind of coloring that in. That is something that really brings the book back to life and is a lot of volunteers' favorite steps. And then once those books are all ready, they can come over here to be sorted. And then these will actually be sorted even further from these categories into our Building Home Library 14 bundler recipe categories, as well as grade level for the chapter books.
So I will give you a little tour as well of the categories that get sorted for our preschool level. So once the books are cleaned and have gone through their first kind of quality checkpoint, they will get sorted by our stewards, which are our regular volunteers who come in either weekly or bi-weekly, some monthly. And they go into these boxes here by category. So here we have pop culture, hardcover fiction, soft cover fiction, board books, animal books, poetry, nursery, rhyme, song, activity, nonfiction, books for babies, concept books, and then our inclusive mirror window used books. And then right above there, you can see that all of these categories represent the recipe of the 14 books that are going to go into our bag. So I'm going to show you Josh now and the table of which our volunteers and staff bundle these books.
Hello again, everyone. So after the books have gone through that entire intake, book cleaning process and sorting process, they come over here to the bundling table where we eventually build these bundling bags according to the recipe that Jessica just showed everyone. So these are the bags that eventually go out to the kids in our programs. And just to kind of put this into perspective, each of these bundles has 14 books in them. I know it can be kind of hard to tell over an online meeting, but I'm 6 feet tall and this bag is like the size of my torso. One time I was giving a presentation actually in a preschool that was going to do a book drive for us. And I was asking the kids, how many books do you think the book bank distributes in a year? And they thought for a minute. And one of the kids, she was thinking really hard. And she was like, 6. And just to kind of illustrate, a lot of these kids, they can't even count to 14. This is like 14 books is probably the highest number they've ever heard of in their life. So this is actually really exciting for them to get, and it's really cool. So the books in here, they all come from the recipe, but something else that I want to show you is that we also include a little bonding with books kit is what we call it over here. And this kit just includes some fun little games that kids and their parents can use to kind of engage with the books we distribute in a different way. So that's really fun because according to just the surveys we do about our programs, the parents of the kids both say that the Bonding with Books kits really help them kind of have more fun, get more life out of the books, and just enjoy them a lot more when they receive the books from us. So it's just a fun addition to the bundles. But this is what goes out to the kids. It's a really iconic part of the book bank program, and it's something that we're all huge fans of over here.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh. And then I'll note one more thing about our book bundles and how we kind of create them. You'll notice here that on the bundling table, each bag is going to come with 2 new inclusive mirror window titles and 1 used. We send out teacher forms to our Head Start teachers so they can let us know what type of inclusive and culturally specific books each individual child would benefit from. The goal here is to really represent like that intersectional identity as well, so they can check off as many boxes as they feel fit that child's identity or their family cultural identity. And then when we're building these, we'll keep that in mind. So if we get the checkbox that the family is Arabic, we'll make sure that we're including a book like this in there. If we get a checkbox that a child is Filipino, we'll make sure that we include a book like this in there so that every child's getting at least one mirror book where they are seeing their own family's kind of culture in there. And we try our best to, make them as specific as possible. So that includes kind of buying as many books as we can with intersectional identities and as many identities we can across the board. For this last portion, we're going to play a little guessing game with Brittany.
So we love to show off how great these books can look after our book cleaning session. So out of these 4 books, one of these is brand new and the rest are all that I just pulled from these bins over here of books that have already been cleaned by volunteers. So if you want to drop in the chat which number you think is the new book. And you get the prize of knowing you have a sharp eye.
And let's get the answer.
The answer was number 3. So this is a new book that I pulled from one of our Story Like Mine shelves.
Great, thank you. Thank you for guessing.
Thanks for guessing, y'all. And so the rest of these ones here, 4, 2, and 1, all went through our kind of classic book cleaning with the volunteers. And that is kind of just a nice example of like, we really value quality over quantity here. You know, even if it takes someone 20, 30 minutes to clean up one of these books, it's better than rushing through the process. That is our tour. So we'll just wave goodbye and then I'm going to hang up on here and we'll meet you back at our office computer.
Bye, everyone.
Bye all.